So this week, the Vestron Video Collector's Edition series of Blu-rays is releasing a box set of Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, 4, and 5. And to get ready for that, I thought I would talk to you today about Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, released by Scream Factory. So this movie was released in 1984 and it was directed by Charles E. Sellier Jr. And this is a movie I've been meaning to watch for so many Christmases. So many years I say during the Christmas season, I am going to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, this classic Christmas horror movie for the first time. And every year I never do. Well, last night I changed everything and I finally watched this movie. And it was a very cool experience because this is a movie that was very controversial when it first came out. The idea of making a movie where Santa Claus is killing people was not brand new, because if you watched Tales from the Crypt, the Amicus anthology horror movie from the early 70s, the first segment in that anthology actually did that very concept. But this is a feature-length version. And this movie is significantly trashier, and people were very upset about that. There's even a very famous clip on the Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert film critic show back in the 1980s, where they denounced this film as morally degenerative. But anyway, I was very excited to finally watch this movie. So unlike so many other slasher movies, this one is packed with plot. This movie spends very little time just like hanging out with a group of teens or something like that. It's jam-packed with backstory. It starts off with a family, specifically with this little boy, and unfortunately, he witnesses his family be brutally murdered by a man dressed up like Santa Claus. There's no actual Santa Claus in this. This isn't like Krampus or something like that. Just as a man dressed up like Santa, and he does some horrific things, and this boy witnesses it, and it follows him for the rest of his life. And the movie is his slow descent into madness, or maybe not so slow, quick descent into madness over his time growing up, and him becoming a killer Santa Claus himself. First thing that I gotta point out about this movie is that if you open up the Scream Factory edition, you will find a theatrical version and an unrated version. Now, normally I go for theatrical versions first if I've never seen a movie, because I want to see what people actually saw when they went to see it in the theater. But with a slasher movie, I figure it's uncut because they added a little bit more blood in, and I'll take that extra blood, so I watched that version. But it was interesting because some text popped up on the screen that told me that they were able to restore the movie because of its original film print, but they weren't able to get the film of the cut scenes that they wanted to add back in. So they had to take those from video. They color corrected it, did what they could, but they basically said in that text box that it was not going to look as good. And that turned out to be true, but it made it very interesting because normally if I were to really tell what was added into the movie as opposed to the theatrical version, I would have to watch them both back to back, right? I've never seen the theatrical version. So this way, because I could easily tell what the cutscenes were because the quality went down, I knew exactly what those scenes were. And it is a shame that those cutscenes are not seamlessly blended back into the movie. It's not like Scream Factory's release of My Bloody Valentine, which that release is perfect, right? And it's so great that they added that stuff back in. That's not like this, but because I now know exactly what scenes were not in the theatrical version, I can tell you, I think about 80% of the gore and violence in this movie was cut. Look, if you were going into a slasher movie for sex and violence, for gore, for blood, I think this one delivers more than the vast majority of them, actually. And the theatrical version, I don't think I could say that about. I think that's probably why this movie doesn't have a great reputation. I mean, it's obviously has an infamous reputation. People have heard of it, but I don't hear people talk about how great this movie is very often, right? I don't hear that a lot. And I think it's probably because almost everything you see in the kills of this slasher movie was taken out of theatrical, and I think not enough people have bought this Blu-ray and actually watched that uncut version. Because, I mean, like, there's a scene where he stabs a girl, but then he, like, moves the knife up along her torso. It's a very classic slasher or giallo move. All of that would be cut in the theatrical version. There's a scene where he picks up Linnea Quigley. Shout out Linnea Quigley. Actually got to meet her one time. Very cool. Very nice lady. He picks her up and puts her onto the antlers of a deer that's on the wall. You don't see any of that happen if you're watching the theatrical version. So I am a huge slasher fan. I love this genre, and especially 80s slasher kills are so much fun because of the practical effects, right? And this movie delivers so many great gross practical gore effects. I was really impressed with it. I think this movie is an enormous amount of fun. Is it a great film? No. Does it have a lot of 80s cheese? Yes, although that's kind of a plus for me, to be honest with you. But it's just so trashy and exploitative, and it's never boring because it's jam-packed with plot. It's even got this weird 80s montage where the guy he got a new job, he's doing a great job at work, stocking shelves, helping kids out. His boss is like, it's so great. It's so much fun. I think this movie just has so much fun to offer. And I can't imagine ever going to the theatrical version. So I gotta say, if you've only ever seen the theatrical edition, I highly recommend picking this Blu-ray up, watching the uncut version. And if you're like me a couple of days ago and have never seen it at all, I highly recommend it. I think it's a Christmas horror classic. Christmas horror is such a fun genre, right? Because we all love horror movies, but seeing horror among all of these decorations that are meant to be happy and joyful, and just seeing that dichotomy of horror with all that is so much fun. I love the genre, which is why it's so crazy it took me so long to see this movie, but I'm very happy I did. Also, so this is the Scream Factory art, right? And it's good. I like it. But I gotta say, the original poster art is so iconic, and it's such a great visual that I have been keeping this Blu-ray on the original poster art. Right there. You got Santa coming out the chimney, holding an axe. Great axe action in this movie, so the poster doesn't lie to you. This is such a fun movie. Highly recommend it. So that's my review for the Silent Night, Deadly Night Scream Factory Blu-ray. Very excited to come to you in just a few days to talk about the Vestron edition of Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, 4, and 5. Mine is in the mail. I'm expecting it very soon. Going to watch them as quick as I can and report back. So happy holidays, everyone. I hope you're having a great holiday season. I know I am jamming to Christmas music, making way too many treats that I shouldn't be eating, but I am. Drinking spiked eggnog. I'm just having a great time. I will see you in just a few days to talk about all kinds of movies.